Welcome to next video in the series, and today we are going to explore GRC. Yes, this is the next topic in the syllabus, GRC, which stands for governance, risk, and compliance. So this is the topic for today. So let's get started. So we need to understand in this video, because the videos the objective is describe governance, risk, and compliance, GRC, in organization. Well, so organizations face increasing complexity and change in regulatory environments, calling for a more structured approach for managing governance, risk, and compliance. That is GRC. So, with the help of GRC, any organization who has to comply with certain regulations which fall under compliance wants to manage cyber security related issues that falls under risk, and for the proper organization of your environment, so that you would have a well governed environment, that will fall under the governance. So pretty sure it was not making much sense as of now, but don't worry, stay with me. We'll start exploring each one of these one by one, and you will have your answers. You will have the proper understanding of the concept. So let's first define what governance, risk, and compliance actually means, and then we'll try to explore all these three with the help of Azure. That's our main or primary cloud that we talk about. So, governance, not governance, but governance. Governance. All right, so governance means just like we have government, right? Why we have government? To govern the nation, so that nation should work in a particular way. Similarly, we have governance in our organization, the set of rules and regulation. That is what the governance is. Set of rules, regulations, practices, or you could say processes that define who can do what in your organizations, uh, because we are talking cloud all the time, so in your cloud environment. But governance is not restricted to any cloud environment. Governance could be applied anywhere, like we have in our home, like don't drink or don't smoke, or do not come late in the night, wake up early in the morning, right? Few homes, like I belong to a defense family, my father was very restrict. Now he is not, but he's not restrict. He was restrict, so he used to wake us up early in the morning just to go have some workout, run. And also, that's just a silly example, but uh, you understand, right, what the governance is. For example, in our environment, uh, you're not allowed to create a virtual machine in any specific region or outside India, maybe, because in cloud you have all the access of the entire globe. You can create anything anywhere. But governance will not allow you to create virtual machine in any other region apart from your region. Could be India, could be US, could be anything. Another example of a governance. So let me take another scenario to explain it further. For example, a company wants to ensure that only DB DB admin can manage Azure SQL database. Only DB admin should have rights to manage Azure SQL DB or database. In that situation, what will we do? Well, we will apply RBAC, which is role based access control. What is the role? DB admin role. So only folks who has the DB admin role permissions would be able to manage the Azure SQL. So what are we doing? We are governing it with the help of a tool called RBAC. RBAC, right? There is another example. So what would be the outcome? The governance rule prevents unauthorized access and ensure that only uh, designated users, or as role says, role based access control, only as per the role would be able to manage the SQL or critical resources. So that's what the governance is. Now I'm pretty sure this piece is clear for everyone. Once for start with the risk management. That is the another piece of GRC that we need to understand. So what is risk management? Well, as the name says, risk, or few people from my side say risks, but both means the same. It's just like that's what he wanted to say, risk or risks, risk management. So let's manage the risk. So what is risk? We all know what is risk. And what is management? What is risk management? We already know what is risk. And what is risk management is more like identifying and reducing the threats or reducing the risk of particular organization, like cyber attacks, data leaks, and insider threats. So it is happening. We are doing proactive measures to manage the risk. Okay. So it is identifying and reducing threats. In simple term, this is what the risk management is. Find out what is the risk and then manage it accordingly. You cannot just apply all the regulations everywhere, then you will not be able to work. So you got to manage it properly, and you should have right security measures. Right, you cannot apply firewall everywhere because firewall is a security device. You should have a proper knowledge what needs where. For example, there is a company uh, which is using Azure storage account, and maybe accidentally, or people were not aware, or somebody just created the storage account which is by default without any service endpoint and private endpoint. So what does it mean? It simply mean when we create Azure storage account just like that, or accidentally, it is publicly accessible, or we could say exposed to public, right? When we created it, if there is no uh, governance in place, it can be done. Proactive governance, like you have applied some kind of policies, it would not allow you to create such a mistake. But let's suppose it's not there. Then what happens? MS Defender for Cloud. This guy, MS Defender for Cloud, this tool will detect the misconfiguration and sends an alert to your security team, right? And what will the security team do? They will restrict the access by enabling a private endpoint or service endpoint, ensuring that only internal users can access the data. So what just happened here? Risk management. Risk management prevents data breaches by detecting and fixing security issues before attackers can exploit them. Right. So who helped here? And for risk management, Defender for Cloud, because by Defender for Cloud, by default, it just scans everything in the environment and gives the best recommendations as per the Azure best practices, CIS benchmark, right? At the back end, Azure policies are in play, right? So policies run, they will check if these environment is not running as per the best practices, they will highlight it, alert it, and you can fix it. So that is risk management. Now you know what is risk management. It's just identifying what are the risks around and reducing them. Now, what is the compliance? Let's understand that. Well, compliance is like we have compliance in our offices, like wear formals or wear something like your badge around your neck, not batching, if not doing that, you're not compliant, right? Those kind of things. So compliance is ensuring that resources meet legal and regulatory standards such as GDPR, which is for data, HIPAA, or ISO 27001. So it is like if you are running any specific kind of, for example, in Indian Army, if you are if you join Indian Army, you have to wear those uniform. If you're wearing those uniform when you're going to your office, that is the academy, or maybe field, whatever, with all your weapons and everything, because you have to manage, maintain that compliance. Similarly, that is the compliance of Indian Army for a soldier. But if we think from the organization's perspective, if they are running any application, for example, any financial running application, any banking application, or anything like that, so there are certain norms that needs to be followed, because you are managing the private data of public, right? Maybe you have like credit cards, or maybe you are managing the health information of patients, right? HIPAA. So there are certain regulations provided by the government or authorities that needs to be followed. What are these regulations? They are things like how you should manage your data, how you should manage your application. Everything should be encrypted. Those kind of security measures are there. So that's what the compliance is. Simple example, GDPR, this is data related compliance. HIPAA is health related. Then ISO, there are so many other, there PCI, if your PCI, like Amazon website that we have, any e-commerce or any application which are dealing with the finance, it's payment card industry compliance. You have to go, there is a proper way of running those applications with certain standards, right? So those are compliance. So now we understand these concepts. Now let's go deeper into each one and see how Azure helps organization implement these GRC efficiently. All the example that we took here, I tried certain silly daily life examples, but some of them were Azure examples already. But let's go further and try to understand these concepts, because these are really important concepts and we should be aware of these things. Right, so let's start from the Azure perspective. Azure governance. Okay, now we know governance is rules, regulation, practice, and all those things. So governance ensures that cloud resources are securely managed, controlled, and compliant with company policies. That is what the governance is. Okay, and a well governed Azure environment ensures, there are like few example, like only authorized users have access to a specific resource. This will fall under the governance. Resources are named, tagged, and structured correctly, right? There is a proper way of naming your resource groups or your resources. There is a proper hierarchy for your management group, subscription, and everything that fall under landing zone, right? So governance, if we are following proper governance, we have proper cloud adoption framework, it has all those things, then cost and security policies will be there to manage your cost and security under Azure governance. And why do we need governance? Without governance, organizations may face security risk, cost overrun, and operational inefficiencies, and a lot more, to be honest. For example, this we gave storage account. So risk management came later when MS Defender figured out there is a publicly exposed storage account. But if there is a proper governance in place, this will never happen, right? So, what are the uh, different tools of governance in Azure that we have? We have Azure policy, okay. We have RBAC, MS, through MS Entra, of course. We have management groups to hierarchical representation of the organization. Uh, then we have blueprints, which is going to deprecate it soon. So Azure policy ensures certain rules should be followed across all the resources. Like you cannot run unapproved virtual machine or some specific size. You cannot deploy resources in any particular region. Those kind of rules and regulations. RBAC, we all know, management group will help us to manage our organization resources like subscriptions and apply policies, RBAC, log, tagging everywhere in this hierarchy. We already explained all these things in uh, landing zone video, cloud adoption video, and well architected framework video. But here for SC 900, for our new students, we need to understand these things from a very high level perspective because we need to just describe what is GRC. And as of now, I'm pretty sure you can describe what is GRC even from the Azure perspective, right? So let's take an example. Let's say a financial institution using Azure must ensure that all storage accounts are encrypted. Okay, there is a simple way of using it. Apply the policy, and they can automatically enforce encryption rules and block non-compliant storage deployments as well. So the outcome is governance reduces misconfigurations and enhance the security. Very simple example. Now let's talk about risk management in Azure. So risk is any potential event that can negatively impact an organization. Risk management, negative impact, right? Uh, so risk can be external, like cyber attacks or natural disasters, or internal, like data leaks and unauthorized access. So we need to manage it. How can we reduce risk in Azure? Well, we can utilize the tool like we talked about, tools above, like Azure policy, RBAC, management groups, logs. Similarly, here we have MS Defender, as you have seen the example right here. We have Sentinel, which helps us to analyze security incident, threats, and proactive hunting. We have Firewall, Azure Firewall, right? We have NSGs to control network traffic and block unwanted IPs from accessing virtual machines, right? So all these things will help us reduce the risk. And if you go back to the previous video where we were talking about zero uh, trust and then defense in depth, you can simply relate all those things directly with the risk management here. All right, so let's take an example like a company uses MS Defender to detect storage accounts exposed to the internet. The same example. With one click remediation, they can enforce private endpoints and ensure secure access only from approved networks. Regarding the compliance, compliance refers to laws and regulations or industry standards that organization must follow to protect customer data, which is very important. Customer data and ensure security. Right. So those are the compliance. These are legal things and you must follow it. Like we give the example right here. So how can we follow that in Azure? There must be certain tools like we have here for governance and for risk management. So here we have Azure Compliance Manager. Yes. Azure Compliance Manager. It will assess compliance posture and check if workloads meet certain compliance that you tend to follow, like a GDPR. Microsoft Defender for Cloud can also be leveraged here through the Azure policy. Use the policies which are meant for the compliance. And for example, you need to follow HIPAA compliance. You could simply pick HIPAA initiative of Azure policy and apply, and you can see the report in the MS Defender for Cloud. Now, Azure Monitor and Log Analytics will help you track security and compliance logs. One of the compliance always maintaining all the logs, so that audits who assess this can check and approve your compliance. So Azure Monitor could be helpful, and Log Analytics, all those things could help you manage your compliance. Right. So before we just wrap up, let's discuss some important compliance related concepts in Azure. All right. So what are these concepts? The very first is data residency. Okay. Not that, but data. Data residency, which defines where is the data, like where the data is stored and processed. Then we have data sovereignty. Maybe I'm not writing the correct spell, but you got the point. Data sovereignty ensures data follows laws of the country where it is stored, like how you should store a particular data or data type. Then the third is data privacy or privacy, which protects personally identifiable information, which is a PI data, from misuse, of course. So these are three important compliance related concepts. Let's take an example. Let's suppose there is a company in Germany who wants to ensure customer data is stored only in the Europe data center to comply with GDPR. So using Azure region-based storage policies, they can restrict data storage to specific region, ensuring legal compliance. All right, so with all these three things, GRC, I'm pretty sure we are now understand what is GRC. We understand what is data residency, this data sovereignty and privacy. Residency, as the name says, where is the data stored? Sovereignty is all about maintaining the law of a country. Data privacy is protecting the PI data from misuse. Okay, I think we have covered more than what we're supposed to as per the syllabus.